After I talk about Stanford this week, saying, do I believe they should be number 2 in the nation? Well, they prove me why they should. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Slasher U. I'm your host, Christian Rao, here with my co-host, Steve Beck. We're going to break down Stanford defeating Arizona 73-57. It was honestly an absolute beating, if you will. Stanford looked really good in this one. And I know we've had the conversation on should they be number 2 in the country? Should they be 3 behind maybe potentially Ohio State, who hasn't lost a game yet? But it's hard for me to take that argument more serious than I did at the beginning of this week after watching Stanford in this one. I mean, they looked really good. Haley Jones is starting to come around, Steve. She's really starting to wake up. And we know we had some issues at the beginning of the year, especially in that game against South Carolina. Well, that's not the case anymore. They looked really good in this one. I listened to the press conference. They said, even though they believed it was a pretty not gritty game, but I'll take it. That's what they said. They'll take the game, but your thoughts on this game? However, Stanford moving to 15-1 on the season with a 73-57 win.
Yeah, I heard that same quote, and I was really surprised because when you watch this game, I mean, the Arizona Wildcats, I mean, they're averaging well over 81 points a game. Again, some of their schedules have not been the most competitive team, but still, I mean, they're blowing people out of the building that they should be blowing out. And if you're scoring 81 points a game, I don't care if that's men's or women's side. Okay, I mean, you have a good offensive team. They only scored 57 points. So to me, that shows that it was a gritty defensive effort. And I know Tara Vanderveer had said that she doesn't recruit players for their defense. She recruits them for their offensive talents. But she's really proud of this particular roster because they play solid defense pretty much every night out. And if you look at what they did there, they held Arizona to 7 points in the second quarter. The fact that both teams didn't shoot very well in the first quarter, but I mean, Stanford really wasn't shooting well. They just said, okay, fine. We're going to just concentrate on shutting Arizona down. If we're not hitting our shots yet, we're going to make sure that Arizona is not hitting their shots yet. So for me, I thought it was a very gutsy, gritty effort. But I think when you have a team like Stanford and the standards that program has, I don't think they like to talk themselves up too much. I think they want to say, look, we can be better. Like Haley Jones knows they can be better. Some of their younger talent can be better. But, Stanford, I think they needed a game like this, against a ranked team. And they, like you said, they beat them. They shut them down. It really, I mean, when I looked up near the end of the game, I was surprised that Arizona had 50 points. It finished with 57, but I was really surprised that they had that many points.
Yeah, this game was interesting. It really was. Stanford really showed up. They crushed him on the boards. I mean, 53-35, when you look at the numbers, it felt like it was a lot worse than that. It really did. It felt like every shot was going back to Stanford with the rebounds. The only thing that I was actually really surprised when I looked at the team stats at the end of this is Stanford had 17 turnovers. Now, so that's something that you can improve on, which is cool. Knowing that you just played a fantastic basketball game, winning against a top 15 team by double digits and still had 17 turnovers. It shows that there's a lot to still improve. And you know that they will, because, Stanford and with the coaches they have, with the staff they have, they like to be a finely tuned machine. And this coming Friday, they got to play UCLA. So it's not like they're going to take the brakes off anytime soon. They're going to keep the gas going. They got some really tough games coming up. They got Utah in the middle of the month as well, Oregon at the end of the month. I mean, Pac-12 play is no joke, even though Stanford usually runs it in the Pac-12. And I don't see that changing anytime soon, because this team looks really good, especially when you see players like Brink and Jones really stepping up and showing that they are in midseason form, if you will, exactly where they need to be, getting ready for the tournament. I'm looking forward to this, but it shows that they are not all the way there yet, but they will be. And I think that this is a team that we got to really watch out when we get to tournament time, which we all know. But
Right.
I think that there's this thought behind it. And you and I might be both guilty with it, Steve, that because they lost this overtime game to South Carolina, maybe we prematurely, I don't want to say write off, but kind of put them in the back burner a little bit, saying, well, Stanford, okay, they lost that game. Maybe they got some work to do. At least I can be guilty on this one. I felt that way. But after this game against Arizona, they reminded me they are the number 2 team in the country. They are a team that can run with teams like South Carolina, Ohio State. And when we do get to the tournament, they are going to be a tough team, and no one's
Mhm.
going to want to play them.
Oh, absolutely. And for me, it was more how Stanford struggled against some teams that perhaps that they shouldn't have struggled against. And I'm not talking about score-wise necessarily. You brought up the turnovers. We had the same conversation the other night about the UConn women's team.
Right.
For whatever reason, as talented as they are, they're averaging 17 turnovers a game, and nobody can figure out why. Stanford is a uniquely talented team because, again, like Vanderbilt said, I recruit for offensive skills. When you have that kind of skill set and you have it in bulk, I think you try to get that fancy pass, or try to drive a lane and try to score there when maybe the shots aren't there and you should kick it out to the perimeter. They have struggled from the 3-point line at times, and with their, especially early in games, not being able to drain their shots. I think that creates another bit of urgency. So perhaps that's where these turnovers are coming in for Stanford as well. Maybe they're just not trying too hard. They're just trying to do too much. And I think if they get back into their regular flow, and I think Pac-12 conference play will help that, because if you're talking, they're going to be playing UCLA. They can't be turning the ball 17 times against UCLA. It wouldn't surprise me because UCLA is that kind of tenacious kind of a team where they feast off of turnovers and points in transition. But I mean, Stanford needs to say, okay, no, we're going to play our game, the Stanford game. We realize we've got talent that will come out naturally in the general flow of the game. Let's just play our game. Let's not try to make highlight reels. And I'm not saying they're trying to make highlight reels, but when you have a standard to live up to, especially for younger players, I think it's hard for them not to try to take advantage of their opportunities and show, see, I'm as good as Haley Jones or Cameron Brink, or whatever you want to talk about. And I think that's where sometimes their younger players still haven't gotten their balance yet. And hopefully it does help them, because if Stanford can start getting players, their younger players, to contribute to the veterans they already had, the core that's there, they're going to be a dangerous team. I still say Ohio State's number 2, but that does not mean that Stanford did anything in this game to drop a spot. And of course they did. They're still number 2.
There you go. Let us know your thoughts in the comment description below. Hit like and subscribe while you're there. And thanks for watching Slasher U.